Night falls and pressure rises. The urgent manhunt for Brian Laundrie. From the front lines in Florida and beyond, right now, his parents speaking out as people across America post possible sightings on social media. I'm Jean Casares. Thank you so much for joining us. This is an HLN special, the Gabby Petito investigation.
The search for Brian Laundrie stretching into its second week.
The FBI is now fully in charge of that search in the Carlton Reserve, not far from where we are right now.
2 people went on a trip, 1 person returned.
For Brian, we're asking you to turn yourself in.
I say to forensic pathologists all the time, take as long as you want with that body.
I know what they were in possession of. There were camping tools. Think about mallets, hammers, knives.
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl. He was slapping her?
It does seem to be a major misstep, that they believe everything Brian says at face value.
All our sleuths out there are saying, you know, she had a habit of always tagging where she was or putting in a locator, and her last 2 posts didn't have that.
Do you think a murder charge is coming?
Hell yes. He's too big of a coward. He's a guy that beats up a 95-pound girl and leaves her body in the desert.
As the hunt for Brian Laundrie continues, the Petito family attorney says they do not expect his parents are going to help. By now, Brian could be anywhere, and he could look like anyone. This is what Brian may look like if he grew out a full beard. Or he could be obscuring his face with a hat. Or he could be sporting a wig. We know that other fugitives do this. Do you remember Scott Peterson? This is how he attempted to change his appearance while on the run after the murder of his pregnant wife, Lacey, and their unborn son, Connor. Look at that difference right there. Welcome to the panel. Michael Street, facial ID expert and retired police sergeant investigator. Welcome tonight. The reason we show those pictures is we want people to realize that somebody on the run is going to change their appearance quite possibly because they don't want anyone to find them. What are the challenges of finding someone like a Brian Laundrie?
I think sometimes the problem is that people are too literal. They're actually looking for that person. Now, I have to tell you that oftentimes these folks are hiding in plain sight. They disguise themselves because they don't go very far. And if they do, maybe they have to disguise themselves less because they'll go to a place where people don't recognize them. And I don't think people are very good about disguising themselves, as we've seen with Scott Peterson and some of the others out there.
Right, exactly. You know, Elizabeth Smart is another example. She was held captive for 9 months. And when she was found, she was forced to wear, I think we have a picture, a disguise, a wig, sunglasses, a veil. And it worked for a while, but she was forced to camp and to travel all over the country. And then finally, people actually recognized Brian David Mitchell, and then law enforcement recognized her eyes. What does it take? I mean, could this be a route for Brian to wear these disguises? And if so, could it take much longer to find him?
Not necessarily. I think the shortest route to finding him would be to get, at least in my opinion, to get cooperation from family and friends. Short term, I think that having a good disguise takes an awful lot of planning. It takes an awful lot of time. For example, in his case, I was looking at his picture today. He has a very distinctive jawline, a very sharp chin. It's going to take a full beard, several days, several weeks of growth to really disguise that face of his. And then you've got, you know, his ears. His ears are very distinctive as well. So he might want to grow his hair out long. So he's going to be in hiding much longer. And the more pressure law enforcement is able to put on, it may force him to make that mistake that causes him to come out of hiding.
Good point. So what should people look for? You just mentioned the sharp chin, his nose. That is something, because people need to look for things that aren't going to change, right? Because he can change his appearance or put something else on, but there's things that just don't change. You mentioned his ears. What do you note about his ears?
Depending on how you interpret it, in my opinion, they could either be characterized as devil's ears or elf ears. They're very sharp on top. They have no lobes. And again, it would take a lot of plastic surgery probably to fix those. And at the same time, again, there are other aspects. The eyes are a great thing, regardless of how many, how much you disguise yourself. I do facial composites of people all the time that wear masks that try to hide their appearance, but they can't block their eyes. There's not much you can change about your expression and the way your eyes are held every day, not to mention the way you stand, the way you walk. Other personal affects and such go along with trying to disguise yourself. It's almost like a do-over, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, you know, that's an important point. Bobby Chacon, there's so much video out there, along with the stills, the way he walks, the way he holds himself, because there's videos where you see him walking. Is that something that people should study? And also, is law enforcement studying that also?
Sure, Gene, they should. And if you watch the body cam from the officers in Utah, you get a good look at how he kind of just hangs out himself, how he's standing around talking to somebody. And there's a definite language that we all give off, even if we're not walking, but we're just kind of taking a few steps here or there, and you're standing in among other people and you're conversing with them. There's a way you hold yourself. There's your mannerisms. That's a body language in and of itself. And we all have it. And if you watch someone long enough, we don't normally pay attention to each other. But think about your closest family and friends. If you saw a silhouette of them in the dark, you know, you could probably distinguish between one family member and another, just the way their mannerisms are and their body language, without even taking a step.
Bobby Chacon, thank you so much. Also, the voice, there's a lot of voice we can hear in those videos. But first, our focus on the missing in America. This is Jasmine Moody. The 19-year-old is from Texas. She was visiting a friend in Detroit in December of 2014. When investigators say she and the friend got into some kind of argument, Jasmine left the house, never to be seen again. Jasmine's father tells NBC she dreams of being a nurse, and she lit up every room she entered. We'll be back in a moment.
She was a kind-hearted mother devoted to her community and her faith.
She'd been involved with the youth ministry at her church, counseling at-risk teenagers.
She wanted to have a family. That was something that was very important to her.
But her dreams would be shattered by a terrifying attack.
There were 9 witnesses in the parking lot total that actually witnessed the shooting.
Broad daylight, parking lot full of people. It just was not common.
The ensuing investigation would pit family members against one another and unmask a cold-blooded killer who committed the ultimate act of betrayal.
The witnesses described a man that was very small in stature, almost like a teenage boy.
It's not something you want to believe is possible.
The purse was still there. It doesn't really sound like a robbery.
It was clear that she had been targeted. The question was why.
The divorce agreement was ready to be signed.
Heather had told friends that she was in fear of her life.
Witnesses observed kind of a strange-looking man.
At that point, it's like a light bulb goes on.
Killing Families, new episode, Sunday at 9 on HLN.
My friend, Teresa Sievers, she's a doctor. I'm a doctor. She came home last night. Her husband is in Connecticut, and she was supposed to go at 9 o'clock. She called me, and I was on my way into work, so I swung by, and she's dead on the floor. And there's a hammer at the side, and she's bashed in the back of the head.
A successful doctor returns from a family vacation, only to meet with a killer in her kitchen. Did her murderer have the perfect alibi? Sex and Murder. New episode, Sunday night at 10 on HLN.
Murder Nation, starting Sunday, October 10th at 10.